Alright, so I have this little carpenter's or roofer's hatchet here, and I'm going to do some modifications like I've seen. I'm going to take off this hammer pole and maybe trim down some of the beard of the hatchet right here along one of these lines. But first, I'm going to take off this handle, so see you in a second. Alright, so I took the handle off of that carpenter's hatchet, and I have it clamped in right here with some pieces of wood. So the blade's clamped in between the pieces of wood. I'm going to use this bandsaw, and I'm going to cut off the hammer pole. There we go. Easy. There we go. Finally got the oil for the last 5 seconds of the cut, so perfect timing. So now I'm going to clean up the cut a little bit, and I've always safety second, so I'm putting on my sunglasses here, my safety glasses. It's important to have light when you're working. Here we go. Oh, you know, I think first I want to clean up some of this rust on here. Okay, so I've roughly cleaned up most of the rust. I'm not looking for mirror polish here. I just don't want any surface rust sitting on it. Now I can clean up the hammer face a little bit on the back of my on my pole here. Are there any corners left? This takes off material fairly easily because this is softer here on the back, so I might just finish it up with a file. Now what I've got to figure out is how I'm going to remove my material on the inside of this beard right here. You know, I'm going to get some water to dip this in occasionally to keep it from heating up, because I don't want to affect the temper of the metal. I probably don't need to wet it this often, but I'm just being very generous with the wetting because I can. I just got to remove this material. I'm just going to take my time. When I start to grind, I can see the water line evaporating back. Even though that's cold water on there, it's still a little bit warm just because metal holds heat. So far I'm being careful. You can see it's shiny all the way up to here, and then I'm not touching. I don't want to touch any farther on the tip towards the edge there. And that notch is mostly gone, so that means I've probably cut away a good 3/16 of an inch. Yeah, if you can see the wet and then all that dry where it's evaporated. All that gray stuff on my finger, that's just little bits of metal. See, now, well, some of it's also grease too, but all that's all little pieces of metal. It's hard to get in close here to the corner as it gets lower down, because then it gets closer to the bottom of the eye of my tool. Going pretty good. I've been still careful to keep that final edge there untouched. That fine, you can see that it goes flat before it starts to curve down. That last bit. Okay, so I'm pretty close to my line on this side, which I just eyeballed with a pencil. And looks like I've already eaten the line on this side. Oh, almost here. So I think I want to bring it up just a little higher. I might need to come in right here with a file though, because it's hard to touch it. Yeah, a little more. Now that I've removed as much material as I want from here, now I'm going to try to work slightly here very carefully, because this is close to the edge, so I do not want to affect temper. All right. I think that's going to be the main profile. Very good. Still clean it up with the file now. If I can keep my thumb out of the way. I don't want sharp edges here, because if my hand chokes up on the handle, I don't want my knuckles digging into corners. Question is whether I want to remove it low enough to get rid of this little natural corner or not. I think it's all right there, because I don't want to touch any of the material on the eye itself. Wow. Now I need to brush up the hammer face. I don't need it mirror polish, but you want to get some of those big scratch marks out from the bandsaw cutting process. I might be putting in just as many scratches as I... Oh no, you can see there's the big scratches and then there's the little ones. It is taking it out. You can see it's on that edge most. Slowly, steadily. Just that little hold out there. I'm actually filing fairly straight. I was assuming that my file motion would make a slightly domed hammer face over time, which is no issue, but I like how it's feeling, the hammer feel. Definitely it's smoothed it out. My cameraman wants to feel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's like...
That's just with a file, so.
Yeah, that's super smooth. You can barely even feel these scratches right here.
Uh-huh. I'm pretty sure this lower one is from when I touched it with the grinder when I was kind of cleaning up, so it's probably sunk in a little lower. So having to remove all the material down, flush to that lowest point.
Uh-huh, but
I do like the finish on there. It's... You want to see the edge? By the way, the edge. There is no edge. I'm pretty sure all the shovels I've ever seen are sharper than this edge. Now I can feel, and it's good, that this is cutting a lot harder, although it's not super hard, which, you know, it's not a high-end tool, so I didn't think it would be, but it's cutting a lot slower, the material here, as it should. So this is where the little carving hatchet head is at right now. You can tell I've done a lot of work. I went in and I hand sanded most of all this. A lot of this rust off. Anything in there is from deeper grind lines from just when this hatchet was made. I tried going in with the power sander a little bit, but I realized now it would have taken a good amount of time to completely take out any of some of those old grind lines from the production, so I just left it kind of the rough finished. And then I spent a long time hand filing down the bit, the chopping bit, but I realized it was taking a long time, so I just went to the grinder and I just very lightly did 2 different passes on the grinder to work back the bevel. And then I took the file and then I just smoothed out the transitions. And when I was doing that, I would frequently dip it in the water just to make sure that it was not heating up the metal that much at all. So I did the final filing though by hand. And then I cleaned up the eye a little bit because there is, just from the manufacturing, there is just some pieces sticking out. You can see marks where I used a Dremel tool and where I used a round file, just cleaning out the inside. Now I'm seeing if I can salvage the old handle because it was really tore up on the end with full of nails and stuff. I was originally hung. There's just not enough material left for it to sink down far enough because it starts to get skinny here. So I'm just going to flip it around and see how it ends up if I put it here. So I'm just shaving away because I can't find the rasp that I would normally use, so I'm just shaving away with the knife. Also paying attention to, if you look down the length of the handle and you look at the bit, you can see it's crooked. So I'll make sure to remove wood accordingly, that way it straightens that out. Okay, so working on, I cut with a hacksaw, the slot for my wedge. I'm just going to try using this metal one. You normally use this for something like an axe. I'm going to see what happens though. See if I can use it instead of a wood, because this is, I don't know, this is so narrow. We'll see what happens. It'll barely fit at the top. So I think it might work out. Instead of having a wood one in there, I'll just use this this metal wedge, and just pound it in there, force it in there. Because my fit's not perfect on my eye because of imperfections in the manufacturing process. I ground away a lot of material that was sticking out. You can see in there, but there's still narrows at the top, so we'll see if it works. See that brown water coming off that rust. Yep, but other than that, I think this is the finished product. The labors of a whole day. I see other people and it takes them 5 minutes. Here's my striped handle. I marked it with the torch. Then I left it thicker up here for holding in the hand for fine, close carving tasks. And then I slimmed it down here. That way you'll have a catch when your hand slides down the end for some light little chopping. But this is just meant for carving around. So it's actually really convenient to hold it right here. You can choke it up pretty nice. Pop, pop, pop. And I convex the edge, or as much as I could. I didn't do a true flat grind. I did try to do a slight convex. And this is unsharpened. This is just from the profiling. Although it is a little sharp there in the middle. I can now go and sharpen it on my dry stone. Not a wet stone, a dry stone. But here is the finished product. I'm curious, how long is it? I'm going to get a tape measure. Okay. Right there to the top of the proud, it's about 13.5. To the top of the eye, 13.25 inches. And to our metric friends, well, I guess you'll just never know. Oh, I'm curious the end dimensions on this. About a 3.5 inch bit. About 5 inches, 4.5 inches long. Okay, interesting. I should have taken the beginning dimensions, but oh well. That was the finished project. I hope you enjoyed it.